handful of people really change the world? It sounds like something from a movie, right? Well, today we're diving into the true story of a Polish labor movement that started in one single shipyard and went on to challenge a powerful government, inspiring millions along the way. So that's the big question we're looking at. How on earth can one protest completely transform an entire country? To find the answer, let's jump in our time machine and head back to Poland in the 1980s. Okay, so here we are. It's the late 1970s in Poland, and to be honest, things are not great. The country was in the middle of some serious economic hardship, and for a lot of people, the future looked pretty grim. I want you to just imagine going to the store and finding the shelves totally empty, or seeing the price of something basic, like meat, suddenly shoot through the roof. This was the actual reality for so many Polish workers. They felt like they had absolutely no control over their own lives. So why was this happening? Well, it all came down to Poland's government at the time. It was a communist system, and what that means essentially is that the state had the final say on pretty much everything, from what factories made to what you could read in the newspaper. And here's the most important part. People were not allowed to form their own groups, like labor unions, without the government's okay. But something was about to give. In the city of Gdansk, at the huge Lenin Shipyard, workers finally hit their breaking point. They stopped working and occupied the entire shipyard. Now, this was an incredibly brave, even dangerous move, because the government was known for using force to crush any kind of protest. Now, this wasn't just some disorganized, angry crowd. Nope, this was a highly organized protest, and they had very clear goals. Every movement needs a leader, right? This one found its champion in a really charismatic electrician named Lech Walesa. This guy had actually been fired before for his activism, but get this, he literally climbed back over the shipyard fence to rejoin his coworkers and lead the strike. He became an instant hero. The workers made sure everyone knew exactly what they were fighting for. They wrote out a list of 21 demands on these huge plywood boards and hung them right there on the shipyard gates for the whole world to see. I mean, talk about a bold statement. And these were not small requests. They were demanding fundamental rights. At the very top of the list was the right to form their own trade unions, completely free from government control. They also demanded the right to strike, freedom of speech in the media, and the release of political prisoners. So you see, they were fighting for human rights just as much as they were for better pay. The government was, well, stunned. They probably expected the strike to just fizzle out, but instead it got stronger with each passing day, leading to a twist that no one saw coming. And they won. After weeks of tense negotiations, the government actually gave in. They signed the Gdansk Agreement, which granted the workers their biggest demand. For the first time ever in a country under communist rule, an independent trade union was legally allowed to exist. This was absolutely massive, a historic victory. The response just showed how much people wanted this. The new union was called Solidarność, which means solidarity, and its growth was just explosive. Within a single year, nearly 10 million people joined. Let that sink in for a second. That's a third of the entire country. It wasn't just factory workers anymore. It was teachers, artists, students. Solidarity had become a massive social movement. The movement also had a very powerful ally, the Catholic Church. This was huge because the Pope at the time, John Paul II, was Polish. He had visited Poland just a year before, and his message to the people was simple but incredibly powerful. Do not be afraid. These words gave millions the courage they needed to stand up for their rights. This period of freedom and hope was incredible, but it was also short-lived. The government was just biding its time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. A little over a year after that historic agreement, the government made its move. In the middle of a cold December night, they launched a secret plan to completely dismantle Solidarity. They declared martial law. So what exactly does that mean? It's when the military takes complete control of a country. They suspend normal laws, they take away citizens' rights. It's like hitting a giant pause button on regular life. It is the most extreme measure a government can take to control its own people. The crackdown was swift and it was brutal. Solidarity was immediately outlawed. Thousands of its members, including Lech Walesa, were arrested and put in internment camps. To stop people from organizing, phone lines were cut. And to create a climate of fear, tanks rolled onto the streets of major cities. The government thought they could just erase Solidarity by making it illegal. They were wrong. The movement didn't die, it just went underground. The spirit of the movement was still alive. People used secret printing presses to share news and information. They even created an illegal radio station that would pop up for short broadcasts, spreading messages of hope before the police could track it down. And all the while, the world was watching and offering its support. This international attention was critical. In 1983, while he was still being watched by the secret police, Lech Walesa was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. This prize wasn't just for him, it was for the entire movement. It sent a clear signal to the Polish government that the world had not forgotten them. Years of difficult struggle under martial law followed, but Solidarity's persistence eventually paid off. The government was weakening, and it just couldn't ignore the will of the people any longer. This timeline really sums up the incredible journey. It all starts with that strike in 1980, followed by the dark years of martial law. But by 1989, the government was actually forced to sit down and negotiate with Solidarity in what became known as the Roundtable Talks. This led directly to the first partially free elections in over 40 years. And the result of that election was a political earthquake. Solidarity's candidates won a stunning victory. And then just 1 year later, Lech Walesa completed his unbelievable journey, going from a shipyard electrician who climbed a fence to becoming the first democratically elected president of Poland. So, what can we take away from all this? The story of Solidarity is this powerful reminder that history is often shaped not by kings or generals, but by ordinary people, electricians, crane operators, teachers, who decide to stand together for what they believe in. It shows that even when you're facing overwhelming power, unity and nonviolent resistance can bring about incredible change.